Today, I want to introduce you to Eric Meyer, a husband to an amazing wife, going on 12 years, a dad to two amazing kids, 10 years old and 7. He's a former deputy sheriff from the Sacramento County Sheriff's Department. Eric served for 10 years and was a field training officer, was involved in 4 shootings, 2 active shooters, and lost 3 partners in those 10 years. He's recognized as a court expert in gangs and narcotics, expert in handgun and rifle courses, agitator for canine teams. That right there sounds pretty fun. An agitator for canine teams. EMT, threat assessment specialist, and many other certificates. He led several trips to the countries outside the U.S., focusing on aid, compassion, training, and self-defense projects, primarily serving the most impoverished villages, foster homes, orphanages, and churches. Eric served as a youth director in middle school ministry prior to law enforcement. He has always had a heart for ministry, youth, and justice. He has worked with AIM for over 2 years. He travels throughout the United States, meeting with donors, churches, large corporations, and how they can become educated in human trafficking and how their involvement with AIM is mutually beneficial. He also travels and leads teams to Cambodia and Belize to help grow and foster AIM's programs that are outside the U.S. Would you please join me in welcoming Eric Meyer?
Thank you. Thank you. Well, good morning, everybody. That kind of wraps it up for me. So now that you know, I'm going to go ahead and walk off here. So I got the call last night, and if you want to talk about nerves, it was a perfect time because I was in the gym, and they're like, hey, do you want to be the keynote speaker? What a great time to get that call just to work out every nerve that you possibly had before you get out on stage. So I really appreciate you guys being able to sit here, listen, and I want to educate, but I want to call to action. I want to be able to give you guys information that you may not have known because it's a heavy topic. And with that heavy topic, I want to bring hope. I want to introduce you to somewhere that you may never have known, whether it be Cambodia or Belize, and be able to give you something to where you can tangibly take back and do something. So this first part, I'm going to show you a little video because like myself, if I don't break it up, I'm going to fall asleep. So I want to be able to have it interactive for you guys. There's different videos. We'll talk about different things. But I want to put you in Cambodia. I want you to see where we are working, see the lives, see the girls, see the actual nightlife that is here. So there's a quick little video I'll show real quick.
We couldn't imagine the extent of the evil that allowed 4-year-olds to be trafficked and sexually abused by men coming from all over the world.
Yes, how old is the one?
Young.
How old?
What's the youngest?
Huh?
The youngest.
These girls needed to be rescued, but more than that, once rescued, they needed a safe place for healing, and that safe place had to include experiencing the love of Jesus Christ if those girls were going to heal. So we opened a restoration home, and those girls did experience the love of Christ, and they did find healing, but healing more than just for themselves, a healing that led them to be the protector of other kids. And it was working. Within months, our restoration home was full. Then my phone rang. A girl was calling who was trapped in a brothel and asked us, please come and rescue me. At that time, we didn't have a SWAT team, so we gave the information to another organization, and we waited 3 days for that rescue to happen. On the day it was scheduled, it was tipped off, and all those girls were taken to a different place. Now we didn't know where they were. One thing we knew is we could never let that happen again. So we partnered with the Cambodian government and started our own SWAT team. And when this partnership with the government started, everything turned around. Instead of raids being tipped off, there was hardly ever a raid that wasn't successful. But we go beyond the rescue. So when we rescue a girl, they don't have an education. Most of them, their parents sold them, so they can't go home. We're able to give them a safe home where they find healing, where they get a good education, And when they're ready to go back into society, we give them a good job. And together, those things will keep them from going back to that life they escaped. What's really cool is these young girls grow up. So many of them grow up to be abolitionists themselves. They don't leave AIM, they become a part of it. They work in our employment centers, in prevention, in our schools, on the SWAT team to rescue girls. And now that girl that made the phone call, she's not only rescued, she's not only healed, but today she's a social worker of our SWAT team. And when a rescue happens, the first person those girls see is her. So much incredible work has been done through the power of Christ, but there's still so much more to do. There are girls trapped in brothels. We know where they are, and we know how to get them out. But we can't do it alone. We need your help. Donate monthly at any amount and become part of the village. Our tribe of monthly donors who are doing whatever it takes to free these girls. Together, we can defeat the greatest evil of our lifetime.
So again, it's heavy, but I wanted to be able to place you there. I wanted you to be able to get a picture for what I'm talking about and why, and educate you guys on where this is happening. And the introduction of who I am and what I was doing, I just wanted to lay it out there so that you guys know the foundation and groundwork from where this comes from, to where I've actually been in it, I've lived it. My 10 years as a deputy, I was able to see it on the streets, living and breathing within our own communities. A lot of people don't think it's here, or they turn a blind eye, but it's living and breathing in the Target that you go to, the Costco, the mall. It is all around us. So to be able to have that education, but be able to know that it's coming from a trusted source that has seen this and is living it and now is seeing it in other countries, I just wanted to be able to give that, not to bolster me, but to be able to bolster AIM in the work that we're doing. And I want to kind of be able to give you guys the foundation of what is human trafficking. We're going to hear about it all day, but to be able to really grasp what we're talking about, what we're doing, the understanding for it, is being able to lay this foundation for what it is. According to the Department of Homeland Security, human trafficking is the use of force, fraud, or coercion to obtain some type of labor or commercial sex act. And I really want you guys to be able to focus on that word coercion, because a lot of people think that it involves kidnapping, being able to take somebody against their will, transporting them into something that they don't want. And to be honest with you, that may be 1 to 3% of actually what happens. A lot of it is the girl that meets the new boyfriend. They start talking, things are going well for 3 months, and then all of a sudden, hey, this didn't all come for free. You're now going to need to go work in that casino and do everything I told you. I'm holding your son against your will, and you're going to do it because now you're afraid. That's not kidnapping. That's coercion, and that's what's happening. Women and girls are forced into prostitution to the profit of a trafficker. Men and children coerced into working in hazardous conditions under debt bondage and unfair wages. We get asked a lot, what about the boys? Is there any boys that you're rescuing? In a very small percentage, there is. But when it comes to sex trafficking, it's primarily girls and women. Boys are mostly in forced labor, which is our brick factories, especially in Cambodia, or the chocolate factories that are in Belize, where we have just launched as well. The International Labor Organization estimates that 40.3 million people are currently being trafficked around the world. There are more people in modern-day slavery, human trafficking today than any time throughout history. And when I first heard that, that blew my mind, because when you think of slavery, when you think of human trafficking, you don't think of 2022, sorry. I still think it's 2020. That's what kind of couple of years it's been. But you don't think about that. Like, your head goes directly to history. But we are living through history from what is going on with trafficking. We just can't turn a blind eye to it anymore. Human trafficking can be a transnational process where victims are recruited abroad, transported across borders into another country where they are exploited for labor and or sex. However, human trafficking can also be a domestic phenomenon where little to no transportation is required. And that's what I was talking about with the kidnapping. There is no transportation. They are not being taken against their will. It goes back to that word of coercion. They're talked into it. They don't see the signs. It's a relationship. They're infatuated with it. It seems amazing at the start, but 4 months later, they're walking a road that they never would have experienced and they never would have wanted for themselves. And that's what we're fighting. Some myths surrounding it, being able to debunk these, provide facts, and see where we're at. We must draw hard lines between victims of sex trafficking and those that choose to work in prostitution. Within my years working the streets, working different beats, being able to see it, where I worked in Sacramento was one of the largest and most predominant sex trafficking strips in the entire Western Hemisphere. We saw the girls nightly, talked to them, had conversations with them, and at the time, you see it as the justice side. You see it as you're out here, you're just trying to make money, you're being mean, you don't want to talk to me, this is what your pimp's telling you to do. But when you actually get a deeper understanding for it, I haven't met one girl that was there willingly that didn't go through something beforehand that got her to that situation. So being able to say that they choose to be there is extremely hard. Sex trafficking only happens to those living in poverty or mostly foster youth. A lot of foster youth are targets for it. They sit out in front of the foster youth facilities. They sit out in front of the adoption agencies to where they know that these girls will run away, that they'll be able to get them at a most vulnerable time and being able to utilize them for their own good. All they need is to be rescued from their trafficker. If they just have a place to go, they will never go back to their trafficker. Victims of trafficking are held captive and kidnapped. Buyers are either drug addicts or elite billionaires. So I want to be able to put that out there because I know for me, I thought a lot of those were true. I thought a lot of those were what caused human trafficking. But it's not the case. It's not the case in Cambodia. It's not the case in the US. And to be able to see the similarities, even though it's an entire world away and we would never even know that it was going on, there are so many similarities between the US and third world countries. Now let's get into some of the facts, and some of these may be alarming. Some of these may open your eyes to what's actually going on. Sorry for turning around. This is really small and my eyes cannot see that. 1 in 4 of those living in modern day slavery are children. That, for me, somebody who has kids, tore me apart. A lot of the girls that we rescue in Cambodia, some of the youngest ages are from 4 to 18. You saw in the video up there, the guys are asking, what is your youngest? And I know all the dudes sitting in the room, like myself, have some views about how we would take care of that problem. But the Christ-like in me can't do that. So we want to be able to go out there and save those girls, and that is a really disheartening fact. 12% are trafficked for sex. 99% of trafficking victims are women and girls, and that was the percentages that I told you before, of a very, very, very minute amount being boys. Victims spend, on average, 20 months in forced labor, but this does not differ based on the type of forced labor. Human trafficking, this blows my mind. Human trafficking earns profits of $150 billion a year for traffickers. Sexual exploitation earns 64% of the global profits of human trafficking. If you were to combine hockey, MLB, NFL, all of their profits, you don't get $150 billion. This outdoes all of that. And for everybody that is into sports, into the NFL, into Super Bowl, this year we know that we had it in LA. Next year, Las Vegas. One of the biggest times for human trafficking in the United States is the Super Bowl. It brings in money. It brings in tourism. The companies know it. They're not going to shut it down. What can we do during that to bring that statistic down? The Asia-Pacific region accounts for the largest number of forced labor in the world, 15.4 million people. That plays into why we are teamed up in Cambodia and going after this specifically. When looking at the numbers, there is a lot of exploitation going on there. California, to hit home, has an exceptionally high rate of trafficking due to the proximity of international borders, number of ports and airports, immigration population, and the large economy that attracts forced labor. 14,500 to 17,500 victims are trafficked in California alone each year, one of the nation's top destinations for human trafficking. And I can tell you right now, it is only getting worse with the way that the borders are open, the way that people are coming in. Those numbers are going to be blown out of the water. When we thought that COVID hit and maybe things have died down a little bit, those numbers through COVID have exploded. And that is extremely disheartening to see. Most people involved in trafficking who become trafficked know their traffickers personally: family, friends, boyfriends, coworkers. A large majority of trafficking in the US begins online. Examples include online chat forums, video games, lobbies, social media, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, darknet, and sexting. This has become the new way of trafficking in Cambodia. For me, I have two small kids, a 10-year-old and a 7-year-old, and one of them loves video games. Whether it's on an iPad, whether it's on a PlayStation, that portal, this day and age, is wide open for people being able to get to your kids, being able to talk to them, get them vulnerable. They're at 10 years old. They don't know what they're doing. They're being told by somebody that they have no idea who it is on the other end of that microphone what to do and that it's good for them. They're extremely taken advantage of, and people just have to be aware. And that's one thing that we really want to do, is just make you aware of that. When they're playing Roblox, some game that's on the iPad that you would think is just some no name, no involvement, just kind of monotonous game for these kids, there's chats in there. And one thing that just made the news was a kid was actually taken advantage of by a 30-year-old male. He was 11 through the game of Roblox, telling him where to meet up, when to meet up, and what was going to happen. And I wanted to be able to lay this out so that we kind of knew the foundation of human trafficking, the stats of it, and just kind of put it in reality. But then shift over to Southeast Asia, where we're at in Cambodia, and kind of give you some statistics and why we're focusing on there. And then I'll be able to highlight AIM and what we're doing to really enlighten and bring hope for this. Because again, with these stats, it's a heavy topic. Like, I could drop a pencil in here and everybody will hear it right now because it's so heavy. But being able to bring hope is what we're going to look to do. So some Southeast Asia trafficking stats. 250,000 people are trafficked in Southeast Asia a year. A lot of it is due to the lack of economic opportunity in that country, extremely impoverished country, and lack of employment opportunities. And I'll get to that through the next slide of basically why that is and why that came about. Education. There's no education. Unable to get access to schools and villages. Schools become private and families are unable to pay for the education. So that leads me into what happened in Cambodia for this to be so bad. And I'm sure when we say topics of a Holocaust or a genocide, certain images come to mind. But if we were to say the killing fields, not a lot of people know about it. The killing fields are what happened in Cambodia. Between 1970 and 1979, for the first 5 years, there was a civil war that took place. That civil war ravished that country. And between 1975 and 1979 is when the Khmer Rouge went in and took over. The Khmer Rouge was a fanatical communist organization who wanted to establish the most advanced and purest form of communism. No one was allowed to stand in their way while attempting a mass takeover. Their goal was to become the largest farming utopia in the world. And when we're saying a genocide and the largest takeover, we're talking about kids executing their parents, executing anybody that was smart, anybody that was educated, anybody that was associated with the government, anybody that could possibly pose a threat to that incoming government was completely wiped out. The Cambodian Civil War lasted from 1970 to 1975. There are 1.3 million men and women murdered during this time, making it one of the largest genocides in human history. There was an additional 1.7 to 2.5 million deaths due to disease and starvation. Once all the deaths were totaled, it was documented that 23% of Cambodia's population was killed, gone, wiped out. There's actually a museum of where it was. We have staff in Cambodia right now that have been able to send back pictures, testimonies, live it and see it and breathe it. There's still blood where this had occurred. You can still walk some of the cells, you can still walk the streets and see all this. It wasn't long ago that this happened. Although Cambodia has made a transition back into functioning democracy since its constitution was ratified in 1993, the country still has a very hard time dealing with the crimes and atrocities of their past. Since the killing fields, 3 of the 5 leading members of the Khmer Rouge regime have been arrested, but 1 serving life sentence, 1 died during the trial, and the 5th was deemed unfit for trial. So if you want justice, this is not it. They got off. They're still in power. They're actually still waiting for some of the people to die off that are still in power so that they can get a lot of the country back. Pol Pot, he was the main prime minister of Cambodia, and he was the leading force behind this. The Khmer Rouge was finally overthrown by the Vietnamese forces in 1979. They were violent border battles, but eventually the Vietnamese regained the country and began the restorative process. They're still waiting, still waiting. 15 years ago, when our founders went over there, that country was ravished. That country was seeing extreme poverty. They were seeing human trafficking left and right. You could not go there and not see any of this happen. And that's why I want to dive into AIM. I want to dive into what we're doing. How are we helping? Some of the stats that we have give you some hope for how are we fighting human trafficking.
I was sold in a brothel to men for sex, over and over again. They treated me like an object, not a person. I was assaulted and abused more times than I can remember. I felt worthless. My heart was broken, and I just wanted to die so that the pain would stop. I needed to be rescued, but not just from the brothel, from the trauma, the pain, the constant tears, and the hopelessness. And through the love of Jesus that the people at AIM showed me, I was. AIM got me out of the brothel and took me to their restoration home. Social workers, caretakers, and other girls showered me with unconditional love. They were kind and gentle and patient with me, even when it was hard for me to accept their love. I was treated like a princess, and I felt the love of God for the first time. Therapists and counselors helped me to heal. I didn't think it was possible, but I can actually trust people again. I can actually love myself and believe in myself. AIM trained me and gave me a job in their employment center. They supported me through college and helped me pursue my dreams. Without their love and support, I would have had nowhere else to go. I would have ended up back in a brothel, exploited all over again. God used AIM to set me free, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. But there are more girls out there still trapped in brothels, hoping and praying for someone to set them free, and they need your help. With your support, AIM can rescue them and help them heal, just like they did for me.
So our 4 pillars: rescue, healing, empowering, protecting. When I first heard about AIM, that first one was the first one I was told, and I was like, sold. You have a SWAT team? Done. Like, consider me in. And honestly, that's what everybody hears. Everyone hears a SWAT team, and it's like, that's amazing. We are the only organization that has our own SWAT team, has our own legal system, has our own lawyers that are basically able to prosecute and see this entire case all the way through. That is amazing. But where the rescue really happens is in the healing. For years on end, these girls talk with social workers, talk with girls that have been trafficked themselves, that are being loved on. The trauma and just the experiences that they went through at such young ages, I mean, you can't understand the stories that they have to say. The hurt that they feel, the hurt that we feel hurting for them. For me, I could never understand how you can go from some of the worst conditions into this God-loving, God-fearing, forgiving, amazing girl of God. And that's where that healing works. That SWAT operation where we kick down the door and go in, that's one night. That's a couple hours. That's fun. That's great. That's where we're able to get that done. But the real work comes with the healing. Empowering. We have our own employment center, and we'll get to that here in just a little bit. You guys will be able to see that with another video of what goes on. But being able to empower these girls, being able to give them jobs, being able to give them money to where they can see, hey, I'm going to work, I see how I'm earning money. I have daycare. I have medical care. I'm able to produce for myself without going back into that industry. We have a 99% success rate of girls never going back. We've had one girl go back in the entire time. We have over 1,700 rescues of girls within our 15 years. And then protecting. We confront the demand for purchasing sex and protecting the vulnerable. 15 years ago, our founders went over. They were lead pastors at a church up in Roseville. They went to Cambodia for an exploration trip. Basically say, how can our church get involved? As many churches do. They went up there. They saw the worst of the worst. On the flight back, and let me preface this by saying our founders are some of the most amazing people you have ever met. They are some of the most down-to-earth, amazing, God-loving, God-fearing people. And Bridget, who is just a riot on the way back on the plane, says, sure glad I never have to go back there. Have we ever questioned God or been like, yeah, that's not his plan for me? Like, the second you utter that, just put your head down and walk off because you know something's going to change. They went back to the church and they said, we want to go to Cambodia. We want to send a team. Who's willing to do it? Nobody. Nobody answered the call. So they took that and said, okay, well, I guess she said it. They sold everything and they went to Cambodia. They lived there and they rescued these girls. And that's when it first came down to the rescues. We rescued them. What do we do now? We have a school for them. When they go to our restoration houses, they can stay there anywhere between 6 weeks and 6 years. But our social workers stay in contact with them their entire life. So it's like having another mom, the mom that they didn't have. The mom that sold them into trafficking is no longer a mom. The mom is there doing the restorative process where they're being able to see God. Once they were able to get out of that, we were able to give that education. And that ties in to what we talked about when I kind of gave you that base information of the Khmer Rouge. They killed the educated. They killed anybody that had that type of background, so there was nobody that could teach the next generation coming up. So what do? We built a school that could hold 1,800 kids, bring other ones in from the community and our survivors so that we could provide them that education. We have computer classes, we have culinary classes, we have English, there's so many different courses in there and stuff that these girls never would have experienced, but through this restorative process, they're able to have. So once we were able to do that, we said, okay, what's next? And they were like, we need to provide them the empowerment. So we created the employment center. And in that employment center, they're able to create clothing. Like the shirt I'm wearing today is completely created by the girls. They cut it, they sew it, they print it, they ship it, and the name of every girl who made it comes on the shirt. For me, I'm a total shirt snob, don't get me wrong, but like if my neck wrinkles or like I wear it one time and it's done, or I'll throw it away. And not because I work for AIM, but honestly, it is some of the best quality that you can get. And before this, I was your typical dude of like, I'm gonna go to Bass Pro Shop and pick up a shirt. I don't care. But now when I look at it, I'm like, where did that shirt come from? Like, who did it help? What is the sourcing that came from it? What are we able to do through something that may seem small, but you're now able to empower these girls and provide them a life that they never would have had before. And once that was kind of done, and we were able to get that up and running, we were saying, okay, what can we do now? What more do we need to do? We saw the streets being shut down. We've planted churches. We saw what used to be downtown Las Vegas for Cambodia transition now into where none of that is happening, and you can walk those streets completely fine. Being able to see God planted in the center of that community and completely take over and change that community is phenomenal. So we said, you know what? We need to go after the guys. How can we go after the men? And that's when we were able to plant a Lord's Gym in Cambodia. The Lord's Gym is focused on kickboxing for the men. Bring in all the traffickers to say, hey, we want to teach you how to love. We want to teach you how to treat women. We want to change the culture of how you're thinking, because this isn't working. This isn't how you treat girls. And so one cool story that we've had from there was a trafficker everybody knew in Cambodia. Big guy, tough dude, intimidating guy. Came into the gym and everybody knew who he was. And it was one of those situations where he walks into the gym and even all the traffickers stop. Like, that's how you know the presence that he had. He goes in there, starts working out. The coach that we had at the gym has a family at home, has a wife, runs the gym, says, I feel called, this trafficker needs to live with us. And I mean, I'm a guy. A lot of times we put the cart before the horse. So he went home, says, hey, I think I feel led to have this guy live with us. And as any rational wife and mom would do, she said, no. And the response from every dude was like, I kind of already did. And so he already asked. And so it was more of a, hey, I'm just letting you know, rather than, hey, can this happen? I think we've all been there. And so he moved in. He came in and lived with them. And it sounds like a scary situation. And there was probably a few tense moments in there of apprehension of bringing this guy into your home. But what happened through that is phenomenal. That most feared trafficker became one of the most God-fearing and loving men that gym has ever seen. He said to our coach, he said, you know what was the difference? You loved me. And I've never been loved, felt loved, or shown love like you guys did to me. That was what changed him. It wasn't fear, it wasn't intimidation, it wasn't prosecution, it wasn't anything of the sorts that we would rationally think. It was that coach saying, I'm going to love you how God loved me, I am going to bring you into my home, and I'm going to share Christ's love. And it completely changed his life. And I could stand up here for hours and tell you countless and countless and countless stories of God working like that, and then being able to take those risks of faith in Cambodia and how it's affecting. That trafficker now is now going to the Asian Games, has won multiple world titles, and is now representing AIM all throughout Cambodia and the Asian Games on a platform he never had before, teaching men how to be men. Like, that's pretty phenomenal. And that's the work that's going on. Again, some of these numbers, that number for the 1,500, again, we're at 1,700. Restored and healed, 927. Reintegrated and empowered, 1,059. Protected from trafficking, 14,580 within 15 years. And when a lot of people during 2021 thought that maybe scale back, this isn't the time to expand, there were a lot of apprehensions going on in the world, we branched out. We said, God, we trust you. We know that there's another need. So we branched out to Belize. We're in Belmopan, Belize, taking on the same issue now in another country. Even though it's completely different, your demand is still the same. High tourist, no education, high crime, no prosecution, and we're back at square one. So we're taking everything we've learned for 15 years and putting it right into Belize. To give you a story, this is Bella. And again, going back to coercion. Coercion. This isn't kidnapping. This isn't taken from a home. Bella, at 12 years old, was tricked into leaving her home and working at a house for a house cleaner for a woman who ended up beating her and trafficking her for sex. So it no longer became her mom. It became the person who was there providing for her that is now trafficking her for sex. After years of abuse, she was rescued by a partner organization and came to AIM, where she witnessed Christ's love and recognized her value. That is the healing process. We can have as many social workers as we want. We can have as many programs in place. We can have as much documentation to say, this is how she needs to be restored. But without Christ's love in there, it wouldn't have the same effect. And every girl that you talk to will say, if it wasn't for God, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. Bella stayed in our restoration home for the next few years. She accepted Christ and is now on AIM's staff as a social worker in Team REAP. Bella offers exploited women the same freedom she once received. She's now married with a wonderful daughter and continues to use her story to bring freedom and empowerment to the voiceless. That is amazing, because when she's used as a social worker, you know where she's used? On our SWAT team. So when our guys kick down the door and they go rescue these girls, they're vulnerable, they're scared. Who's there from the second that door comes crashing in? A girl that also had the door come crashing in and say, I've been through here. I've been through this process. I know what you're feeling. The process starts now. And we start it from the very beginning. Being able to rescue, again, we went into it. Our SWAT team, one of the only organizations that has our actual SWAT team. We started our SWAT team Because like the story that was told from our founder, Don Brewster, there was a time when a girl called and said, I need help. I need to be rescued. Please, please, please get me out. At that time, we didn't have a SWAT team. We were working with the local government, with the local police in Cambodia. We tried to get her out. But as we know in third world countries, sometimes the police are corrupt and they work with organizations, traffickers, for money. Everybody's just trying to get ahead over there. They tried to make the raid. They got tipped off. She was gone. For 22 days, we couldn't rescue her. In those 22 days, she was raped by 198 men. That was the final straw. That is when we said, no more, enough, we do it on our own. We go and we rescue every girl that we possibly can with our own team. And like he said, instead of now girls escaping our grasp, we're getting 5 to 6 girls on every raid. They don't know we're coming. Now instead of being viewed as an organization that's in there and the Cambodian government almost looks at us as a problem that we're taking away from their money, the Cambodian government has now made such an amazing partnership with us. They're calling to say, hey, we need your help. We need you to help rescue us help rescue some girls on here. Other organizations are calling saying, can we use the SWAT team to go rescue these girls? There's more utilization out of this team than we could have ever possibly thought. And like I said, we have our own legal team, we have our own prosecution team. We're able to see it through. So it's not just an immediate kick down the door rescue, we see it through to the very end. One of the girls' identities who's is protected said, when AIM came in and rescued me, my life was not like before. It was like there was light. I wish AIM could be in every country. I do too. We are getting there slowly but surely, but this is a huge problem. And being able to work with other organizations, we can be in every country. And with the help of everybody, we can get there because everybody knows somebody to get into this fight. And if it's not somebody, you can get into this fight. Healing. Rescued girls are healed through our experience, experiencing the relentless love, unconditional love of Christ at our restoration homes. Our restoration homes, girls receive vocational training, counseling, housing, education, and more throughout their stay. They stay with us as long as they need, and our social workers stay in contact with them for the rest of our lives. One really cool and special part to this is what we call princess parties. So when girls come in and they're rescued, within the first week, we need and want to let them know how valued they are. Not in our eyes, but in Christ's eyes as well. So we throw them what we call a princess party. Everybody in the facilities comes out, there's music, it's a party, it's a good time, and we actually take a crown and put it on the girl's head to let her know you are loved, you are cared for, this is how you should have been treated, and we are sorry for everything that happened beforehand. But you're with us now. You're with us, God's here, we're here to help you. And some of the girls, I mean, I don't think I have a video up here today of it, but they're able to go in and they have stuffed animals, they have bedding. I mean, they have things that girls never have experienced in that country. And that blows them away and it makes them feel valued. And that is some of the restorative process that we're able to do through our healing. For our empowering, it goes into our clothing and our employment center. And this little video is going to kind of give you a hands-on to where if you're a business owner, you're a church, you're an individual, you're going on a special project, being able to utilize our employment center to be able to get clothing done, to get new polos done. We have a whole entire jewelry line as well that is on each bracelet. The girl's name and the date of her rescue is on each bracelet. It's empowering, it's impactful, and it's being able to change these girls' lives. So here's a short little video that will show you our employment center.
The AECs are a really important part of AIM's holistic approach to fighting sex trafficking. So AEC 1 was opened in 2012. Basically there was a need. We had a lot of young women who were graduating from our aftercare program who were being reintegrated back into SWIPOC, and there really were no jobs available. So we knew we needed a place, one, to give them job training, but two, to give them employment. So we opened AEC 1. Initially we had 12 young women in the program. We taught them how to sew t-shirts, make bags, other apparel items.
One of our girls, she doesn't know how to read or write Khmer or English at all. She have very trouble with the budget management. But when she working with us, we have been trained her a life skill. When she got paid every single time, in the first year, she always paid the debt that she had been loaned from other people. But right now, she has been saved money to build her own house at her homeland. It's so cool. And right now she's become a team leader, and she told them about why her life has been changed, that God has been touched her heart, God has been changing her.
The spiritual aspect of our employment centers is very important because, here at AIM, we really believe that it's Christ that is going to change this community. It's God working in people's hearts, changing their hearts, transforming their lives, where the change is going to happen here.
So being able to kind of show you guys living and breathing Cambodia of what we're doing, I feel really puts it into perspective. And a lot of people think that, how can I get involved? Something as small as getting shirts is a huge way. You're being able to provide freedom for our girls. Going into protecting, we prevent the exploitation of future generations by confronting the demand for purchasing sex and protecting the vulnerable. Our schools, emergency family care, kids clubs, church work to prevent trafficking of children through education and by offering a safe place for at-risk kids to be valued and loved. Our kickboxing gym is focused on transforming the hearts of former traffickers, drug dealers, and susceptible youth to becoming spiritual leaders in their community. And again, I can go on and on and on about all of these stories. But you see the work that's being done, like the lives that are being changed through AIM, through these things that we've set up, and we've taken a complete holistic view at it. Rather than just saying you're rescued, go free and conquer, we're here to show the love of how can we help you and restore you. Every day I needed love from my family, but there was none. Instead, when I came to AIM, they gave me love and encouraged me. I started to have hope. And that's what we want to provide. We want to be able to provide hope because it is so heavy. So what can you do? There's several different ways to engage. If you guys have never heard of becoming a CASA, becoming CASA is local. It's a court-appointed special advocate. And you're being able to have a witness, to be a witness for a kid that's in the foster youth right now, and meeting with him or her once a week. Being able to say, hey, I'm that positive light in your life, and being able to just put everything onto that kid that you wish that you could do to every other kid. Fundraising. Launch your own fundraiser. Campaign with gifts that God has given you. A lot of people, again, say, how do I get involved? I have no special gift. I can't go over to Cambodia. I can't do anything. For instance, there was a 10-year-old boy in China that said, I really want to get involved. How do I get involved? His God-given gift was painting. So what did he do? He painted a phenomenal picture. What did he do with that picture? He put it up for auction. You know how much that sold for? $10,000. That 10-year-old raised $10,000 through the act of painting, which was his gift. For every raid that we do, it's $1,000 to save one girl. That 10-year-old was able to save 10 girls on his own just through painting. So whatever your God-given gift is, don't think it or discredit it or say that I'm not going to be able to be used, because you can be used. Contact. Reach out to your local human trafficking organizations to see how you can help join. Again, we are one of many people that are here. Luckily, we had some mishaps. Hopefully their plane's fixed, but we're able to be up here on stage and be one of many to say, this is who we are. This is who AIM is. We are just one. Reach out to some others. They are here to help. When we can all get in this together, we are so much stronger than just one organization. We can band arm to arm, and we can truly make a difference in this fight. This is just our information. If you want to see more about us, aimfree.org. And this is going to be a closing video that I have, and I'll end us with prayer. But these are our founders, and this is a recent update that they were able to give while in Cambodia of things that were going on, hearing it straight from their mouths, thanking everybody for what they're able to do. So we'll hear this real quick.
Hi, we're back in Svaypak, Cambodia for the first time in about 13 months. We are so happy to be back. We've been so happy to see everything that God has done over the past year. He's lavished His love on us so much, and you have been a great part of those blessings.
It's incredible. Without your help, none of the great things that God has done would have gotten done. I mean, when we take a look at the school's added an evening or an afternoon session that'll almost double the size of this school. Church, we have 300 adults and 300 children attending. SWAT, in just December alone, rescued 18 girls. And out of our restoration home comes continued miracles. The story of a girl who was brought as a young child into our aftercare home, was there for a few years, found Jesus, experienced His love, and then was reintegrated. She continued to go to school. She graduated from high school, and soon she will be entering medical school. Her dream is to become a doctor and help people like she's been helped.
We are so grateful for our family, our friends, all you supporters. There's businesses, individuals, and grants that have done so much to support all this work, and we are just blessed at the amount of people that are with us in this fight. We're so grateful for you. Thank you. We can't even begin to find the words to thank you enough for what you've done to help us get through 2021, and we're really excited to see what 2022 brings.
I need to add one thing. Is that okay?
Yeah.
The one thing I want to add is thanks to you, during 2021, a year of COVID, you provided AIM with the best year yet in funding. So God was able to do these things. So thank you, thank you, thank you, and God bless you.
So we're going to end with a small activity where we're going to meet 5 people around us. I'm just kidding. Like that. Isn't that like the scariest thing somebody could say from stage? You're like, oh, please no, please no, please no. We're not. I just want to say thank you guys for being able to have us up here, to being able to host us, to listen, to become educated in something that you may not have known, something that you can walk out with and say, you know what, I have a little bit more information, and this hit home. My information's here. I will also be out in the lobby afterwards, being able to answer any and all questions for you guys. I hope this was super impactful. I hope we were able to make a difference. And I'll just close us with prayer. Dear God, we come before you today and thank you. We thank you for everybody sitting here, being able to take time out of their Saturday morning and learn about this awful evil that is hitting home locally, internationally, whether it's hitting some families, whether it's hitting families that we know abroad. This issue is heavy, but we're here to bring hope, that there is so much love that we can cast out, that we can share, that we can impact this world for good. God, we just ask you to be upon every person here as they go out into workshops and they experience more of this topic, they experience more information, that you're able to be with them and not have such a heavy burden today, but that they can see the restorative process that's going on through all of these organizations that are here. We're all fighting this together. We're all side by side. We're all arm in arm. We pray that there's going to be impact today. We pray that there's going to be information today. And we know that you're here. You're working in this place. God, thank you for everything that you're doing, that you will be doing, and the lives that are going to be changed. Amen. Thank you.